All right, guys, it's the beginning of a new week. It is time to show up. I'm glad you showed up. I'm showing up. I appreciate every single one of you that does show up. Do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. And I'm in a celebratory mood at the moment because things are looking fairly good on the game, which is to say that if I click over and show you my screen here, you can see that I've got this set up. And what I was talking about the last time I was on video was that I needed to put chests in the game, and I needed to have the enemies drop experience. And can you guess what I did in the last couple of days? Can you guess what I added? Can you guess what I put in here? I fire this up and grab my controller, and you can see here that I can break the chest and I can collect the item that drops out of it. And meanwhile, I've got all these enemies that are popping out, trying to get me. And you can see down there in the output window, you may not be able to read it, but each of those individual chests, each of those individual things that I picked up, that wasn't very well done. Anyway, but you can see here that as I kill the enemies, they're dropping experience, but you can also see that the other enemies are picking the experience up. I can get to some of it, but I can't get to all of it. And I do take damage as I run around. And it's game over if I take too much damage. Now, if we scroll back through here, you'll see some issues. And one of them is that right here, one of the items from the chests got picked up by one of the gropers. In fact, two of them did. Didn't they? No, one of them did, and then they picked up a lot of stuff. More importantly, I've got experience picking up other experience, and the problem is that when experience picks up other experience, it disappears. Now, I'm not sure whether I want to. I'm not sure whether I want to allow this. Because if I do allow it, well, you know, the collectible picks up another collectible, and they just combine. They combine into the same collectible. My concern is what happens when some gold collides with some experience, and that's sort of the issue that I'm wrestling with here is loot tables and how you deal with differing things. If I restart the game, I've jacked the time down to 3 minutes. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to run around and I'm going to avoid everything. And you can see that we develop a horde fairly quickly. And there's nothing going on in the output window because the only thing I'm tracking is what gets picked up. That's the only thing I actually care about. That and damage. I care if a groper gets damaged, and I care if the player gets damaged. I think I may only care if the player gets damaged at this point. I think I've figured out that the groper damage is working fine. But you can see that all the guys in their underwear are running around after me. And as they're running around after me, they just collect into this little passel of guys. And what I want to do is I want to kind of collect a fairly large horde of dudes. This is pretty big for just over a minute into the game. And now that we're a minute and a half in, I am going to show you that I have a strafe button that will keep you firing in the same direction. You press it and you keep firing in that direction no matter which direction you move. Works for all the directions. Okay, now we've got a fairly substantial group. I'm going to start strafing, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start killing a bunch of them. And you can see here that I'm getting a lot of areas picking stuff up. Now, what I want to look out for here is, as I do have something of an issue as it currently stands, where now see, there's a whole lot of stuff that got picked up by other collectibles, and it's gone. It's just gone forever. But we do have a victory condition. And you can still walk around picking stuff up after the victory, which I think is important. I think it's an important thing that you can go around and you can pick up all of the experience, or you can just go, I can't be fucking bothered. But I think one of the things I will do is, I'll have that checked. Now, if I scroll back up here, you'll see a whole lot of these collectibles that are picking up other collectibles. That's a lot. And that's not okay. That is not good. You can see that a whole lot of this stuff disappeared. A lot of stuff was not picked up by anyone. So I need to figure out what's going on there, and I need to fix it. But it's playable. It's a game. It's an actual playable game that you can run around and you can collect stuff. And there's a win condition and there's a lose condition. And my camera doesn't like to focus anymore because it's fucking old. But I have a usable, playable game which has both KBM controls and controller controls. Personally, I always use a controller, so I don't really care about the KBM controls beyond just testing to make sure they work. There's some stuff I want to add to this, like if you are using KBM controls, it seems to me that you should be able to use the mouse in one hand and the keyboard with your other to take care of stuff. And you should be able to manage aiming and all of that. And I want to figure out how to do that. And I also want to even though I personally use a Steam controller, and Steam controllers are garbage for twin stick shooters, but a lot of people really do like the twin stick shooter aesthetic. And if you're using a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, which most people are, then you've got actual sticks and not the shitty touchpad that doesn't work very well for twin sticking. Also, if you have a Steam Deck, that has 2 sticks on it. So I want to put the twin stick shooter controls in there, so you can use them if that's the thing that you like, if that's the thing that you want, because I know a lot of people like that. There's a bunch of stuff I want to do to make the game more accessible, to make the game more fun, to make it more interesting. But the priority right now is we got these chests, and these chests can be destroyed and so on and so forth. But you'll notice that what I've named them in the editor. Let me turn on the list again. What I've named them is destructible, because these could be anything. Okay, these could be. You got light sources in Vampire Survivors. You destroy them and they drop stuff. And obviously you've got chests, and then you've got clay pots like Link. And all of this stuff is a valid thing to be thinking about putting into the game. And obviously I have done the thing that every Gato developer has to use. I have to use the Gato icon as a test graphic. That's important for some reason. You're supposed to do that. But there's kind of, the to-do list at this point is less about gameplay and it's more about aesthetics. Obviously, I need better graphics. I need a sprite to differentiate between the thing that got dropped by a chest and the thing that got dropped by a groper. And I need a chest graphic. I mean, at the very least, I need to redo all of the sprites. There are 80 sprites for each of these characters. So, like, right now, that's not a big deal. That's only 160 things I gotta draw or paint. But the intent is to have 10 different enemies of a particular class on a given level. And I'm waffling on a question, and that question is, when you start the level, obviously when you start the level, what you're facing is just people. It's people who want your panties. But as the level progresses, do I want the enemies to become more monstrous? And there's a question of bosses. Do I want a boss in the game at all? Do I want boss-type monsters that start showing up at given intervals? Or do I want, like, actual bosses? And it's important to kind of point out that I hate bosses. I think bosses are terrible, especially the puzzle boss. The puzzle boss that's impossible to beat until you know the secret. So you have to get to where the boss is and the boss kills you and you're like, what the fuck? Why couldn't I do anything to the boss? Because there's a puzzle, and until you solve the puzzle, you can't beat the boss. So you have to be trying to solve the puzzle while you're trying to beat the boss, and until you solve the puzzle, it's impossible, and once you solve the puzzle, it's a fucking joke. He's not even a challenge anymore. I hate that. I really, really hate that. I like a kind of smooth progression from... I don't like the Dark Souls model of games. I haven't played any of the Dark Souls games because I know I don't like that shit. Because Dark Souls is basically what happens if you're sitting there and you look at a game and you go, what if the whole game was bosses? And that really came from Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus was the first game where it's like, it's all bosses. There's no other enemies. Just the bosses. That's all. And then Dark Souls went, what if everything was a boss except like increasing difficulty? So different bosses were like different levels of difficulty. I don't like that shit. I don't think that's fun. I don't want to do that. But players do like boss monsters, and they're not awful, you know? Holocure's full of boss monsters, and I loved Holocure. Holocure was a great game, so maybe adding boss monsters to the game, maybe the boss stage is not bad. Maybe that's a thing that would be good. And you got all of these different questions that you can ask and all of these different things that you can do. And of course you have to fix bugs like experience picking up other experience. Not supposed to do that. There's probably, let me jump in here and just kind of point something out. In the collision object 2D, okay, in the area 2D rather, okay, in the area 2D, you have these two flags, one that says monitoring and one that says monitorable, and maybe I just need to turn off monitoring. Maybe that's the only thing I need to do. Let's see if that screws anything up. Can I still pick stuff up? I cannot pick stuff up. Okay, that's bad. Let's turn it off monitorable. Okay, there we go, there we go. There we go. Now let me gather a little group. I will just run around. This is actually, at this point, it's actually a semi-fun game. It's not a lot of fun, but it's fun enough. And it could be more fun if, see, you can tell that right now, all you have to do is run in a particular direction and keep running in that direction. Like you just do this. They'll never get you. Just run in any direction, and if you don't run into them, then you're fine. This is all groper pickups. I'm not seeing any area pickups. The gropers could still pick it up. I think that's it. I think I just need to turn monitorable off on the pickups, and that's it. I think that's all there is to it. There are all of these things, like I'm not 100% clear on the difference between layer and mask. And I'm not 100% clear on the logistics of when you want the layer on and when you want the mask on. What I do is I turn one of them on and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then I turn that off and I turn the other one on and see if it works. And usually that works. Oh man, I'm getting complacent here. Ah, shit, I lost. And I lost it like a minute. So this is roughly the level of challenge that I'm looking for in this game. Is it's difficult to survive the whole 3 minutes. Like you should, like a minute or two is about how long it should take unless you buy some upgrades. Now I am gonna shuffle some stuff around. Like one of the many things I want to do is, if you come all the way up here, you see that right toward the beginning, I take 5 damage right there. Right there, I should have lost. Because what I'm going to do is, I am going to reduce your hit points to 1 when you start. Because this is the brilliant idea that I've got. There's no separate health and experience. There's just how many panties you're wearing. How many pairs of Divine Spirit panties are you wearing? Now you may be sitting there going, wait a minute, what the fuck? Because obviously you would be going, wait a minute, what the fuck? But the whole idea of Filthy Perverts Stole My Panties is, they have stolen all of your panties except the pair that you're wearing. So you're running around in your last pair of panties, and this army of filthy perverts is trying to take them from you. And if they manage to get to you and take your panties, then you're done. It's over. Because you're one of the Pantsugami, one of the divine spirits of panties from the top of Mount Fuji. You're a Japanese panty goddess. And you get your power from the divine spirit panties that you wear. If you have no divine spirit panties, you have no power. So this is the last stand. You are down to your last pair of Divine Spirit panties. They've stolen all the others. This may sound weird. Obviously, it's weird. You got to do weird shit. If you don't do weird shit, then you're not going to stand out. It may sound offensive. Of course it's offensive. It's supposed to be offensive. This was going to start out as a clicker game where you were building the filthy pervert army, but I decided I think I want the first game to be the one where you don't want your panties stolen. And that way, I mean, the way I was thinking about it was, you have the first-person game where you are stealing panties. And then you have the second-person game where your panties are being stolen. And then you have the third-person game where you're trying to stop the filthy perverts from stealing someone else's panties. So it's the first person, I'm stealing the panties, you're stealing the panties, someone else is stealing the panties. It goes first person, second person, third person. I thought that was really interesting as like as a literary kind of reference. But I thought about it and I went, if the first real game I release is go steal these people's panties, is that really the image I want to have in the game development community? I'm fine with being the guy who writes games about panties. That's fine. But I think I want to start with the one that's not quite so misogynistic. Where it's not quite so awful, where it's not quite like... There's a clicker game I got called Spiral Clicker. It's fundamentally a hypnosis game. And you click to make the little spiral spin, and it hypnotizes the girls, and when you hypnotize the girls, they let you do things to them. This game's really gross. I mean, I don't have a problem with being a guy who writes really gross games, as long as I don't come out the gate going, look, my games are really gross. The army of perverts is trying to steal your panties is more absurd than gross. You're trying to steal the panties, that's more gross than absurd. So I flipped it around. Also, there's the art thing. It's mostly the art thing. If I'm being honest, it's mostly the art thing. I can use lower quality art to build this game than I can use to build the clicker game. I mean, I could use lower quality art to build the clicker game. Have you seen Idling to Rule the Gods or whatever it is? What's the name of it? It's Idling something. IDL. Holy shit, how many games do I have with idle in the... Oh my god, there's 80 of them. I have 80 games with idle in the title. Idle or idling? I've got... Yeah, Idling to Rule the Gods. If you look at the art for that, it's like... It's middle school study hall shit. Okay? That is not a slam. That is not a criticism, okay? It's just they went, fuck it, I'm going to draw some shit in study hall and put it in my game. Maybe this actually is like a high school student or a middle school student. Who knows? Who cares? Maybe they've got their kids doing the art for their game. Again, who knows? Who cares? That's fine. You don't need great art for a game. But the vision that I have for what was originally Groping Festival and what is going to become Filthy Pervert Army, it has a certain quality of art. And I can't do that quality of art yet. So I've got to do something that's going to have this quality of art. I may have just fixed the problem. I may have just fixed the problem by turning monitorable off. It seems to be fixed. I don't really know why, but I know what I did. That's the important thing. It's the important thing. Here's a thing about, we're 25 minutes in and I have actual useful content for once. It's okay if you don't know why the thing you did works, but you have to know what the thing you did does, because now what I can do is I can fix the focus of my camera, and then I can jump over here into my browser and I could say Godot Area 2D monitorable. What does setting the monitorable property... Why does setting the monitorable property to false make monitoring stop working in the same area 2D? And this is on the Godot engine forum. So I have an area 2D node called coin detector, and when a coin, this is automatically imported from the old question to answer platform, and it was asked by Draconic in 2022. Anyway, so I have this area 2D node called coin detector, and when a coin, static body 2D, enters it, it emits the body entered signal. Everything works properly until I set the monitorable value in coin detector to false. Why is this? I really want monitorable turned off, because otherwise it would disrupt some other area 2Ds. My psychic powers tell me that monitoring and monitorable do the opposite of what some people would intuitively think they do. Side note, I've tried messing around physics layers and masks, but it seems no matter what an area 2D will always detect another area 2D, no matter the masks and layers they have. Well, that's not true. I've messed around with layers and masks, and I'm not really clear on what layers and masks do. Okay. Reply from Urtane, again, imported from the old forum. Turning off monitorable for an area 2D stops it from monitoring other areas that go through it. That's exactly what my psychic powers told me. Turning off monitorable stops it from monitoring. It's the opposite of what you think. You say monitoring and monitorable, and you go, okay, so monitorable means other areas can monitor this, and monitoring means I'm monitoring other areas, but it's actually the opposite. It's actually the opposite. That's exactly what my psychic powers told me, and you too will develop psychic powers after you've been programming long enough. Because you'll participate in enough forums and you'll read enough documentation and you'll know this is why it is. So, the answer is monitoring and monitorable do the exact fucking opposite of what they say they're doing. Why do they do the opposite of what they say they're doing? Well, let me fire up my psychic powers again. When I fire up my psychic powers again, I go, okay, so they made monitoring and monitorable mean what they mean. And they put them out into the world, and the people who made Godot, Juan Linietsky and what's his name, the other guy. I should remember this guy's name. I remember Juan. I always remember Juan. Ariel Mansour, okay? The people who created Godot, I will just bet you what happened is they're Argentinian. English is not their first language. They got the meaning of monitoring and monitorable mixed up. And because they got it mixed up, they did it backwards. And when they did it backwards, they put it out into the world, and a lot of other people for whom English was not their first language went, I don't know what these words mean, but this one means that, and that one means this. I understand that. And they ended up with thousands of people who had code written to assume monitoring and monitorable meant the opposite of what the words mean. Now you have a problem. And that problem is If you fix it, none of the code will break at compile time, but all of it will break at runtime. That is the worst possible situation for a change in your code. So, leaving them swapped, leaving it a magic piece of knowledge that you need to understand about the engine, is barely the right decision. It's exactly what should have been done. And my psychic powers could be wrong. Okay? I could be wrong about what happened. I could be wrong about the history. I could be wrong about why this is the way it is. But I've been doing this a long fucking time. And, yeah, that's probably what it is. If anybody wants to go and talk to Juan and Ariel, that would be a great thing to leave in the comments. Especially if you are one of those people. You guys make great fucking software. You know, the entire reason that I use Godot is because, I mean, I was looking at all these different game engines, and there's no good reason to pick one over another. I mean, from a technical perspective, they all pretty much do the same thing. The reason I picked Godot over all of the other engines is I saw the development decisions being made, I saw the choices being put into the engine, and they're the decisions I would have made. Whenever a bug needs to be fixed and they implement the fix, Juan and Ariel did what I would have done. The contributors to Godot did what I would have done. And that makes the entire thing very intuitive to me. And that can't be overstated, okay? When you're using a particular language for a long time, like there are a lot of people who the only language that they know how to use is Java. And there are people that the only language they know how to use is Python. And for those people, if your language doesn't work the same as what they're used to, it's very frustrating and difficult for them. Now, for me, you know, I started out with assembly language. And then I moved to C, because C has all of the power and flexibility of assembly language with all of the readability and ease of use of assembly language. So, yeah, I moved to C, and then eventually I had to work in a corporate context, and I had to use C++, and then later C# came out, and I used C#. And there were a lot of people that really tried to push me toward Java, but Java has a very bondage and discipline approach. It wants you to build software a particular way, and if you don't build it that way, you can't. It doesn't work unless you build it the way Java wants you to build it. Fuck you, do what you're supposed to do. It's very ideologically pure, and it's very much designed around a sort of object-oriented religion. One of the early architects on Java was Peter van der Linden. And he's a guy that I used to work with. And oh my fucking God, the guy's incredible in C. When you're working in like regular old everyday non-object oriented C, he's a fucking machine. He's incredible. He does the coolest shit. He knows the language backwards and forwards. The man is brilliant. I love him. He didn't like C++ because of the problem that C++ has, namely that C++ does make it hard to shoot yourself in the foot, but when you do, you blow off your whole fucking leg. He didn't like that. He didn't like that you could fuck stuff up really bad in C++. And eventually he got an opportunity to work at Sun Microsystems building Java. And he worked with them, and he designed some of the initial stuff for the language, and they built a language where you can't shoot yourself in the foot. It won't let you. And after a while, he resigned from the team in disgust. And the reason he resigned from the team was they weren't trying to do what was best for the developer. And they weren't trying to do what was best for the technology. They were trying to do what was best for this weird object-oriented fixation they had. The proper way to do object-oriented programming. And there's nothing wrong with thinking there's a proper way to do object-oriented programming. I think there's a proper way to do object-oriented programming. But when you force developers to do things your way or they're not allowed to do it, you have lost the fucking plot. And I didn't know that for a long time. I didn't know that for years and years and years, that he had left the team. I just thought, oh man, Pete worked on this? Really? This is his idea of what a language ought to be? And no, it's not. Like, it was so not his idea of what a language needed to be that he quit. And in protest, because he didn't like what they were doing to it. Which jibes with my experience. The early releases of Java, I was like, this looks good. This looks like it's going to be really cool. I love the write once, run anywhere concept. And then after a while, I was like, this is bullshit. It's the same way Peter was. And it makes me feel good about myself to know that I had the same reaction to something that one of the most brilliant programmers I know had. Doesn't mean I'm as brilliant as they are, but it does at the very least mean I'm not completely fucking stupid. Anyway, let me blow my nose real quick. Let me turn the volume back on like a normal person, like a person who's not fucking stupid. Next steps on this game, next things that I need to do with it. I need to do loot tables. When you open a chest, the chest should not always contain the same thing. It should usually contain some gold, and it should look like it's some gold, and it should add to a gold counter that you can see somewhere so you know how much gold you have. The gropers should drop something that looks like you should... Well, they should drop panties. That's what they should do. They should drop panties. And you should run over and collect the panties. That's what it should be. It should be panties, obviously. And I think I have fixed the items picking each other up problem just by setting the monitorable property. I don't know for a fact that this has fixed it, but it certainly looks like it has. So I'm going to act as though it has. And I need a UI. I need a user interface that shows you how much experience you've got, because one of the key differences between this game and other games in the genre is when you gain experience, your experience is used as health. Because you're picking up panties from the enemy when they're destroyed, that gives you more panties. And because the enemies are trying to take your panties, when they do damage, they're taking the panties away. And when they take the panties away from you, they gain experience. They improve. And I really need to play with that. I need to play with that enemy advancement thing. And there's a lot of stuff around that needs to be done. But I'm going to push all of that kind of off to the side, and I'm just going to go, first things first, gold should look like gold, panties should look like panties, and chests should look like chests. Then the chest should drop more stuff. They should at the very least drop a magnet item, and that magnet item should tell all of the experience in the area to immediately gravitate to you. And There should also be a gold magnet. There should be a cash magnet that causes all the gold in the area to gravitate to you. So an experience magnet, a gold magnet, there should be a nuke. There should be something that you pick up and it kills all the enemies on screen. And what else? Well, you could... there's lots of stuff that you could do. You could do all kinds of status effects. You could have all kinds of items that produce a status effect on the enemy. Like in Vampire Survivors, you have one that produces a freeze effect. The Orologian, when you pick it up, everything on the screen freezes. That might be a good thing to add. Another thing you could add is something that there's the, I don't know what they call it. There's the flamethrower thing you can pick up, the little gold bar, and you pick it up and you're spitting fire for a while. Limited time weapons, that's a thing you could pick up. What else? I don't know. Those are kind of the immediate things that come to mind. Health. No, you don't need health. Because experience is health. I am leaning in the direction of doing a special attack. And I have this idea. I've been playing this game, God, I don't remember the name of it. Carrion, I think? Yeah, Carrion. I've been playing Carrion, and the thing that interests me about Carrion is the part where you're just like this horrible monstrosity, and I was thinking, what if your special attack is to turn into some particular type of horrible monstrosity? Because fundamentally, I don't think it's made very clear. You're walking around and you're just like trying to kill guys in their underwear and collect panties. I don't think it's made clear enough that the Pantsugami are not human. They are spirits. They are divine beings. They are a force of nature older than the sky. And I think if your special attack turns you into an eldritch horror, maybe that kind of waves a flag and goes, not a person. I don't know. I think that would be interesting. I think that might be a fun thing to do. Do I need another drink? I do not need another drink. I think I just switched to coffee. But yeah, sprites, I think, are the first place to start, and then loot tables, because I've got different things that I want to be in chests, and I also want every groper to have a small possibility of dropping some gold. And then you collect your gold. And then we have to do a place to spend your gold and a place to level up. We need to have the level up mechanism. And we need to have the UI. We need to have the UI. We need to have a level up mechanism. We need to have an upgrade mechanism. You're not going to be using the upgrade mechanism during the level, which we got to push that up out of the play field. We got to do the level select screen. I mean, there's only one level, there's only one character, there's only one starting weapon, but we need to do a select screen. So at the very least, you could see there are more characters, more weapons, more levels, which there aren't yet. I haven't built them. But when I have, when there are, that will be an important thing to have. And I need to think about the pattern of instantiating this, because right now, the player is an element of the level. the player should not be an element of the level. The player should be selected separately. And then the player should be added to the level, and the level should be instantiated. Well, the level should be instantiated, the player should be added to the level, and then once you actually get into the level, then the level should create various enemies, and the enemies should be pulled from a pool. That's another thing I need to do. How do you pull? I mean, enemies from a pool. You need a loot table of enemies. You need a loot table, and you need an encounter table. And we also need better spawning that's more than spawn a new groper every 3 seconds. Also, we reduced that. We reduced that by the frame time every time one is generated. Which means the number of frames between gropers is constantly shrinking. So they're constantly showing up just a little faster. I'm going to change that somewhat. I think what I'm going to have is... I think I'm going to have a dual system where there's a scripted series of events that happen, which includes bosses, if there are any. And then there's a dynamic series of events that happens just to kind of keep things hectic. So it's like, you'll be playing Vampire Survivors or any other Horde Survival roguelike, and suddenly you'll be surrounded by enemies, and the enemies will be closing in. That will be in one track, and then an entirely separate track will be we're spawning enemies at random that just, like, chase after you. So I think we keep spawning enemies at random, and then we add, in addition to that, scripted enemies and boss enemies. I think that's what we do. Anyway, that's kind of where things are. I'm fairly happy with the direction things are progressing and with the amount of progress that is being made. Because mostly what I need to do is paint stuff and add a little bit of code here and there. It's not all that difficult to do. It's just that you have to do a lot of testing. You have to do a lot of debugging. I mean, I've been working on figuring out this picking up other pickups thing for a couple of hours now. And it's just like, all I had to do was hit this one checkbox, but you had to know that was the checkbox to hit. So, shit like that happens. Do a little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit, and that's me showing up for the week. So, okay, bye.